Okay, I'm gonna do one more state, and and then I'm gonna call it quits. I gotta go run some errands. I want to do this more since I figured out how to do this off camera. I hate the way I look off on camera. But Rhode Island in 2008 was a staunchly Hillary Clinton state in the primary, and then Barack Obama, of course, coasted in the general election, which is to be expected. Rhode Island's never been a Democratic state, except for I think in the 80s. They never was won by the Republicans. It was won by Reagan and George Bush Sr. in 80, 84, and 88. And in 2008, it was clear who was going to win it in the general election. But in the primary, Hillary Clinton did win, and she totally took Barack Obama out. And then this year, let's go to 2016, she lost by 11 points. Now, how do you explain that? Okay, so Bernie Sanders, let me see, how many counties are there even? There's only 5 counties in Rhode Island. I mean, I guess the place is tiny as shit anyways, but she lost by good margins in some of these counties, but it was kind of a close contest. But we have in Wisconsin, whereas in Wisconsin you have like a large black community. In Rhode Island, you're talking about a lot of conservative Catholics who are Democratic traditional voters, and they've been voting for people like the Kennedy dynasty for decades. I think there was even a Kennedy that was elected in Rhode Island. I'll look it up on my phone. I think it was Joseph Patrick Kennedy, who was a congressman. But in Wisconsin, you have one group of voters, the blacks, that are gonna typically vote for the Democrats no matter what. In Rhode Island, I think there is actually a group of voters in those Irish and other Catholics. The Irish, I think the Portuguese are the other community. I just saw it in this same article. But these people are they're not necessarily going to vote Democrat, and I'll explain the reason for that. Is that we're talking about a constituency that the Clintons are really alienating, which is the traditional Democrats, the working class, Irish, Italian, and other ethnic Catholics, that they've had all of the time in the world to see the benefits of voting Democrat, but really their world of privilege is really slipping away. And I'm not talking about privilege in the economic sense. They're kind of a depressed community, but we're talking about a community that under those figures, the Kennedys and to a lesser extent the Clintons in the 90s, they were saying, yes, we're going to build this new America. They're heavy union voters, but in Donald Trump's defense, we're going to see a great amount of people crossing over and becoming Trump Republicans in some states, and I think Rhode Island will be one of those states. And I'm not, in the primaries this year, you had 122,000 Democrats show up. Hillary Clinton lost it by a healthy margin. What happened in the Republican primary? They had again about half of the amount of people, but he crushed it and hit it out of the park. He won by more than a 2-1 margin over John Kasich, who I don't know who was thinking that John Kasich was going to win the nomination. The guy really, he's not that charismatic of a politician, and I think he is overrated. I don't think he's a bad governor. He's the governor of my state, but he's not a great governor, and I don't think he really. I think he thought that he would sneak into the nomination by not being an asshole, which in some quarters is considered to be a winning attribute. I guess in this case, our election has proven that us assholes can pretty much, we can find our way in this world. I mean, we can find our way pretty far. It doesn't matter which constituency you're going for. But Donald Trump did win by a healthy margin, and we're going to see, I don't have polling here because they're not taking polling for a state like Rhode Island. But we're not talking about a huge constituency. And when the primaries happened in, it says April 26th for both parties. And it's been, so that was 6 months ago, almost exactly, in 3 days. So we're talking about a massive amount of time, and all these developments. This is a state already predispositioned, and I'll make that point now for all the states that I covered, whether it's Oregon, Wisconsin. The third state that I covered was Vermont. That was the second state I covered. So Oregon, Vermont, Wisconsin, and Rhode Island. And I actually wrote an analysis for more states earlier, but I'm not going to make this video super long. But we're going to see issue where those voters that showed up for the primary, whose minds have been changed, whose minds have been set, because we're not going to see these Marco Rubio voters that showed up in the early primaries gonna say, "Oh, I'm not fuck that. I'm not gonna show up for Donald Trump," because the fact is, even Marco Rubio, a guy who was insulted directly by Donald Trump, directly to his face, has made peace with the fact that he's not going to be the nominee. And he went and rendered himself to Donald Trump. Ted Cruz as well. John Kasich is in denial that he's really, that he's for some reason he believes he's a leader in America. He's not a leader. A leader is somebody who can really change minds and lead people to come to their side. And it's not John Kasich. I'm sorry. A lot of people went and voted for John Kasich, including myself, for a very strategic reason, because we didn't want Donald Trump either. And I didn't want Donald Trump. I would still go to the candidate I preferred, Rand Paul. And, that what I'm trying to get at is that those people, like in all the primaries, that they went and didn't vote for Donald Trump, that people are still claiming, Michael Medved on the radio, that the majority of people did not vote for Donald Trump. They don't get it. It doesn't matter. The majority of people in some of these contests in the Democratic election didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. The fact is that Hillary Clinton had only one good competitor, and that was Senator Sanders. And he was, to be honest with you, in an election between where Sanders would have run against President Obama, or where he would have run against somebody like Al Gore, I don't believe he would have succeeded as much. He had a lot of chinks in Hillary's armor, and he wasn't even fighting as hard as he could have. And he really gave her the scare of her life for the nomination. Imagine, and now we're seeing, this is what I'm getting to, the effects of that. The fact is, the revelations of the Podesta emails, the revelations of these of Jen Palmieri and the O'Keefe tapes and all these other issues, they're being listened to by so the people that are the CNN viewer, they're not going to pay attention to that. The people that are viewing MSNBC, they're going to ignore it. The people that were Bernie Sanders voters and have committed to voting for Hillary Clinton, it's going to be sort of a tug of war whether they're going to want to vote for her or not. I think a lot of them will end up voting for her, the ones who have already committed. The Bernie or bust people, the ones that have been ostracized, they were ostracized at the convention, they were ostracized since then, they've been held in contempt every time, whether it was before Bernie lost the convention, the contest and the primaries, or after, since the convention, by Sarah Silverman calling them ridiculous, by Hillary Clinton saying that they're basement dwellers. So those people have been listening, and they're getting back into their praying mantis mode and going on the attack. And they're getting people to say, no, we're rejecting as progressive voters Hillary Clinton. We're going to vote for Jill Stein. And it's a fact. I listen to them all the time. I listen to them all the time, and they're out there and they're not going back home. And you could dox them as much as you want, and you can attack them as Bernie Bros and as closet racist or sexist. But it's the fact of the matter is that the Democrats are in denial about their problem with the progressive base, about their triangulation strategy that they've been having go on for years, which has scammed the progressive voter. It's also scammed the conservative voter, by the way. But the Democrats are in a huge bind right now because what are they supposed to say? We're seeing they're blaming Russia for literally everything. They're blaming every time they've been caught doing something. They say, "Well, this has been leaked by Russia." Well, how many excuses can that's just an excuse. The fact that you got hacked, and it's very widely agreed that the hack that occurred did not have to occur. The fact is that you have John Podesta, and I'm gonna switch screens right now. Focus on John Podesta. This video is not very visual, but I'm sorry, I'm not a very good video editor, so you're gonna have to bear with me if you're gonna watch this to the end. John Podesta has been a Democratic insider for decades. And he was actually a Barack Obama staffer. So Barack Obama is very much responsible for having John Podesta relevant to this campaign. So Mr. Podesta and his attempts to, sort of weasel out of what he said. And then on top of that, Jen Paul Mary, the spokeswoman for the campaign. And on top of that, a lot of these other people, the Robbie Mook guy and everybody that they're dodging questions and whatever. It's not working anymore for the progressive voter. And where do those progressive voters live? They live in states like Vermont, and they live in states like Oregon and in Wisconsin and that Dane County area, which is very critical. By the way, I don't know if they're going to lose Dane County. Let me reiterate: the Democratic Party does not have to lose that county in order to lose Wisconsin, but people just don't have to show up, or they just she wins it by a margin much smaller than she should have, which Barack Obama would have never occurred. Barack Obama would have steamrolled Donald Trump in a second in Dane County. It would have been a margin that Mitt Romney would have laughed at Donald Trump if Donald Trump was running against Barack Obama. But the fact of the matter is that they're not running against Barack Obama, who himself, I wrote an article about today, his public relations is the greatest accomplishment of his career, because that's all he's running on. He's running Hillary Clinton's campaign better than Hillary Clinton is running it, and it's coming to an end. And this John Podesta is one of the reasons. He's one of those skeletons in the closet of Barack Obama. And I'm going to leave it here. Those voters in those 4 states, I think they could end up becoming the Podesta Republicans or Podesta Greens or Podesta Libertarians, because they're going to show that his emails about the Goldman Sachs elite speeches and everything, they're going to show